Hi guys, Gilly Hunt here. I'm just bringing you a rather pretty floral card, which I have to admit was not designed by me originally. I'm going to bring you a slightly different colour-wise version of this, but this wonderful card came as a thank you card to me from Michelle Last. So big thanks to Michelle Last. And do look her up on the internet because she is also a wonderful card designer and maker, and I take a great deal of inspiration from her and we often swap ideas. So here you go, you are simply wonderful. So let's get started. We've used the Bloom and Grow stamp set to make this, and I've got a slightly different colourways. Here's the original one, and I've made a slightly different colourway here. So this is what I have used to make mine, but of course you could make yours in another different colourway easily as could be. So first of all, I've made a card base, and this is in crumb cake and was 8 inches folded in half to make it 4 inches by 5 3/4. Then I've taken Calypso Coral at 3 3/4 by 5 1/2, Blushing Bride, this lovely pink, at 3 1/2 by 5 1/4, and then another piece of crumb cake to tie in with the base. So this one is 3 3/8 by 5 1/8. And before I stuck it down, the last one, I embossed it using this lovely embossing folder, which is the Coastal, oh that's all shiny, there we go, which is the Coastal Weave embossing folder, which gives you the most lovely, I don't know what you call it, I suppose basket, brick, anyway, interlinked, rather lovely texture. So that's the base of my card, and I've stuck those layers down ready to get started. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scrap of card about this size and a smaller scrap of card, and these are going to be to make the lovely floral parts of this design. Okay, so let's just do those. So where's it gone? Oh, I'm picking up the wrong thing here altogether. So I've got mounted up onto the which side am I wanting? No, I'm wanting that end. Sorry. Right, now I would be going all the way along, except that I'm only going to do this small piece. So let's just bring in a background piece to do it on, so it, because I'm going to stamp off. There we go. I only want this piece. Just use that to stamp away. And then I'm going to colour it in. And I'm also going to cut another piece, stamp that other long piece, but I'm going to cheat because I've already coloured this one in because it's quite a long piece to colour in. So I'll show you how to colour and cut on this little tiny piece, but you will also want one of the whole bloom when you finish. So colour that, cut it out. So here's how we colour this one. So I'm going to take these colours, and they don't come with these great big writing, chunky writing on. I do these myself, but it does mean it's nice and easy for you to see what they are, and it also means when I'm in class I can show people the colours very quickly. So I've used the light Granny Apple Green, I've used the dark Old Olive and the light Old Olive, and I've also used the light, the light Calypso Coral and the dark Calypso Coral. So here we go. The first thing I'm going to use is the light apple green, and I am actually going to colour all the way over every single leaf. Okay. Now, depending on how quickly you can colour, you don't want to do them all at once. Now, I am going to do them all at once because I'm going to colour them fairly quickly. Now, the reason you don't want to colour them all at once is you need to make sure that when you're putting the next layer on, it's still slightly damp, because that way things will blend. If it's all gone dry, then the blends don't work. Now you can go back over it again to re-wet it, but you will end up going over it hundreds of times. So all I'm doing is just pumping a little bit in. I'm going to show you the exact science of this in a moment, but I'm just putting the colours in as quickly as I can so that those colours will in fact merge. Now these dark ones won't merge as well as the light ones, so I'm now going to go back in with the light olive and just, can you see, I am just putting a little dab of colour across the line where the dark and the light meet, and that just blends it. Okay, let me just show you that nice and closely. So the first thing I did was I put the granny apple green in, which gives you this light tip to each of those leaves. Can you see? That's just the tip, but I did actually put it all the way across. Then I put some of the lighter of the old olive from the base going outwards, and then a little bit of the dark, and then I blended them together. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take, oh, I think I've missed one of the leaves. Have I missed a leaf? In fact, I've missed 2 leaves. Hold on. Let's just go in and colour those. Just noticing I've missed this one here and this one at the back. That's easy to do because it sometimes gets confused between. So that's the granny apple green all the way across, and then whilst it's still wet, a little bit of the light olive at the base, because the base is where the dark shadows will be. Okay, and then we're going to take the light olive to blend across, and that has to be done whilst all those lovely colours are still damp and wet, because that way the inks will blend together. Okay, and we're going to do something similar with the light Calypso coral. So when you do your very big piece, which is this piece, I would suggest you do it in sections. You do this section, then this section, then this section, and then this section, and then it stays nice and damp. So here we go. We're going to go light Calypso coral over absolutely every single piece of this rose, but we're just going to go over once. I'm purposefully not going over and over and over again, because I want to keep it very, very light. Then we're going to colour the centre, and that we're just going to splodge. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way around the edges of each petal, just very roughly. Now then, the ones at the very back I'm going to colour in. So round the edges of the main petals. Are you watching? Okay, round the edges, can you see all right? And then anything at the back I'm going to colour in. And that looks a bit too patchy, so what I'm then going to do is I'm going to take the light Calypso coral again, and as we did with the leaves, I'm just going to work across the edges where the two, and this is why it has to be done whilst it's still wet. Okay, and that will just blend. It won't completely take away the dark and the light, because we want that effect. See here on that central one, we want that effect of the dark and the light. Okay, but we don't want it to be too stark. And then we're going to do with a little, I don't know what they are, buds I suppose, and each one we're going to do in the light Calypso coral. Now if you find it hard with the brush end, then swap ends and use the smaller little stubby end. But I must say I quite like working with a brush. I did art at college, so I'm kind of very comfortable with a brush in my hand. So I like to use the brush end even for the tiny dainty details. But this is what I mean by the stubby end. This is the little end. So sometimes if you're not used to working with a brush, then that's a little bit easier to get details. Okay. once we've done that, all we're going to do is cut that out. And we're going to cut that out in the same way as I have done with that one, with just a nice fussy cutted edge. So first of all, I'm going to make sure that's nice and straight. And then I'm going to fussy cut in. And I always find this hard to do under the camera because I'm desperate to get it underneath my sight. And of course, once it's underneath the camera, I'm then working at it sideways on, which makes it quite hard to see exactly where the bumps and lumps are. So forgive me if this isn't as perfect as it could be. But the real joy of having these paper snips is that because of the width of the blade. I'm sure if you've been watching my A to Z, you'll know all about this. But the width of the blade is so narrow that you can just keep it hooked in all the time. You never need to take it out to change the angle. You can literally spin it almost 180 degrees, back round, keep the blades in, spin it round again. And you don't lose, and you don't smush up your paper, and you don't lose your place. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to just very slightly take that off again. Okay. So let's get the last bit done, and that's the wonderful little vellum banner. And I'm using vellum, and I'm using the You Are Wonderful sentiment from the same set as we've just been talking about, which is the Bloom and Grow. I do love this set, and it has so many little tiny details too, which are brilliant for the edges of scrapbooking and things like that. So this is a real good one to buy as far as I'm concerned. Okay, now we're going to use the Versamark ink, which is a sort of sticky ink pad, which you'll find, if you're wondering what these all do, I'm actually just about to record the next in my series of videos, which will be I4 ink pads. So not this Sunday, but next Sunday that will come out. So keep your eyes open for that. So I've just done it in that watermarked ink, and then I'm just going to tip a whole load of embossing powder over the top, and I'm going to give it a good bash just to make sure all the loose little bits have gone, because what we don't want are little loose bits that will add little dots and oh, I've got it everywhere. Oh, there we go. Right, now we're going to bring in the heat embossing tool, which is I'm just going to warm up for a couple of seconds. A lot of people go straight onto the paper, and if you don't heat it up so much, it just takes a little longer, that's all. But in doing so, in taking that little bit of extra time, it gives more chance for any paper or any vellum or anything to curl because of the heat. So what you want is it to be really nicely hot, hot, hot before you get started, and then you only blast once across the page, so you stand less chance of getting things curling. So I think that should be well and truly hot by now. So I'm just going to start at one end. And can you see the colour changing? I'm trying to do it so that you can see it too. And you will see the bright white coming in, and the dirty colour goes away, and this lovely crisp white comes in. There you go. And that now is a wonderful, wonderful, beautifully embossed. You can feel it almost like braille. You can feel the lovely texture and raised area. So in comes my cutting trimmer, and I do this afterwards because, to be perfectly honest, if you cut it into a very tiny little strip straight away, it's almost impossible to manipulate it and hold it whilst you're embossing it. So let me just make sure that's... Now sometimes when I have a tiny little piece like this is why I have all these little bits of washi tape. Sometimes I just add a little bit of washi tape there. Then I know that's held in place. It's not going to slip and slide about under the blade, and I can take it off as easy as could be. Just a little tip for you. You'll always find my trimmer's got all sorts of little bits attached. Now on the original, excuse me, on the original it went that way, and I thought we'd just have a little play, and we're going to go this way. So we've just left a tail, and I'm going to clip down the centre, and then from the corner to the middle, and from the corner to the middle, and that way I get a nice even banner. Okay. Oh, excuse my cough. It's not got a lot better. So there we go. We're now going to make our card up. So we're going to bring in the wonderful bits and pieces that we've done. This is going to come into this corner. So we're making it up almost like as a reverse to the one we've done before. But I'm actually, interestingly, I've put this one back in this corner, so maybe I will just mess with it. Doesn't really matter, it's up to you how you decide to stick this down. Now the only thing we are going to have to do is we're going to have to stick it down with something, so I'm going to use a few little drops of glue, and where possible I'm going to put the glue in behind. Can you see where I'm putting it? I'm putting it in behind the lettering. Okay, I have to do a couple on the end because we do want to make sure it stays down, but by putting it in behind, let's make sure that's got space. Yeah. By putting it down in behind, it does mean that you don't see where it's stuck. You can see those just very slightly, which is why I'm just going to rub across them carefully. Okay, and I'm going to put that one in there. And I'm just using wet glue to do this because wet glue just allows it to slither about, and it's so much easier for such an in and outy sort of shape. It would be hard to get tear tape in behind that. And I think I'm going to put this in underneath so that you see it behind. I love the idea that for vellum you get that ability to have something underneath, and you get that feeling that there's something ethereal just behind it. So I'm going to just tuck this one in here, in behind, so that you see it gives you some kind of nice clear ones, and then a few just tucked in behind. And then just as the last finisher offer, I've just got a few of these lovely little gems, and I'm going to put a few around. So we might put one, in fact I'm going to put one up there which will help hide the little glue mark, and another little one here, and one here, and a little tiny one in there. Okay, and now I have two You're Simply Wonderful cards. Hope you've enjoyed those, and thank you very much to Michelle Last for my inspiration. Thanks then, bye bye.